Good morning, guys. Hope you're having a great spring break. Hope it's been a restful week for you. Uh, as right now, me and the rest of my family are on our way back from Cersei. Lady got to go visit Harding University this week, but we're on our making our way back. So pray we have a safe journey. But we wanted to go ahead and get back into our study on Romans. We've been doing that before we took a break for our Gen Z Devo study. So let's get back into Romans. Here we've got Paul talking to both the Jews and the Gentiles as he's writing from his imprisonment in Rome. And we're going to be in Romans chapter 11 today. So get your Bibles, open up to Romans chapter 11. But before we get into the reading, a couple of questions for you to be thinking about. Have you ever been jealous of someone? Yeah, without naming any names, or what was it about that person that made you jealous of them, made you envious? Was it something they had? Was it something about them that just you were really jealous about them? If you're trying to get someone to love you, what would you do to win that person's love? And finally, the third question is have you ever experienced the feeling of wanting something more because someone else had it? And what was that like for you? Well, as you think about those questions, let's go over to Romans chapter 11. We're going to begin in verse 1. This is a lengthy reading, so please bear with me as we get through this, but Romans chapter 11 beginning in verse 1. I ask then, has God rejected his people? By no means. For I myself am an Israelite, a descendant of Abraham, a member of the tribe of Benjamin. Now remember, this is Paul talking here. So he's talking about himself. God has not rejected his people whom he foreknew. Do you not know that the scripture says of Elijah how he appeals to God against Israel? Lord, they have killed your prophets. They have demolished your altars, and I alone am left, and they seek my life. But what is God's reply to him? I have kept for myself 7,000 men who have not bowed the knee to Baal. So too at the present time there is a remnant chosen by grace. But it is by grace. It is no longer on the basis of works. Otherwise, grace would no longer be grace. What then? Israel failed to obtain what it was seeking. The elect attained it, but the rest were hardened. As it is written, God gave them a spirit of stupor, eyes that would not see, and ears that would not hear, down to this very day. And David says, let their table become a snare and a trap, a stumbling block and a retribution for them. Let their eyes be darkened so that they cannot see, and bend their backs forever. So I ask, did they stumble in order that they might fall? By no means. Rather, through their trespass, salvation has come to the Gentiles, so as to make Israel jealous. Now, if their trespass means riches for the world, and if their failure means riches for the Gentiles, how much more will their full inclusion mean? Now I am speaking to you, Gentiles. Inasmuch then as I am an apostle to the Gentiles, I magnify my ministry in order somehow to make my fellow Jews jealous, and thus save some of them. For if their rejection means the reconciliation of the world, what will their acceptance mean but life from the dead? If the dough offered as first fruits is holy, so is the whole lump. And if the root is holy, so are the branches. But if some of the branches were broken off, and you, although a wild olive shoot, were grafted in among the others, and now share in the nourishing root of the olive tree, do not be arrogant toward the branches. Remember it is not you who support the root, but the root that supports you. Then you will say, branches were broken off so that I might be grafted in. That is true. They were broken off because of their unbelief, but you stand fast through faith. So do not become proud, but fear. For if God did not spare the natural branches, neither will he spare you. Note then the kindness, the severity of God. Severity towards those who have fallen, but God's kindness to you, provided you continue in his kindness. Otherwise, you too will be cut off. And even they, if they do not continue in their unbelief, will be grafted in, for God has the power to graft them in again. For if you were cut off from what is by nature a wild olive tree, and grafted, contrary to nature, into a cultivated olive tree, how much more will these, the natural branches, be grafted back into their own olive tree? Now, I hope you understand that this is a lesson. This lesson is all about love. If you love someone and he or she doesn't love you back, there's one thing you can do to try to get that person's attention. And that is open your heart to someone else. I know it sounds weird, but sometimes something about us as humans, the nature of us causes us to want something more when someone else is receiving it. Of course, there is a drawback to this plan. If it works and the person you originally loved starts loving you back, you'll now have two people to love. And that can be a problem. Unless, of course, you're God. In this passage, we see that God is using this strategy in winning the Jews' love. By offering salvation to the Gentiles, us, God's love has been widened to include more than just the Jews. But there is room in God's love to include both the Jews and the Gentiles. Now, Paul hopes that God's love for the Gentiles through Christ will make the Jews jealous enough to embrace Jesus also. And that appears to be what God's strategy is. And if the Jews do join the Gentiles in embracing Jesus, God's love is big enough for all of them. It's like he talks about the bush, the olive tree, the branches. God's plan started with the Jews. He meant the Jews to be his people. And while there's a number of Jews that followed God, stayed true to him, there's a number of Jews who betrayed God, who turned away. And so Paul is using this idea of an olive tree. Branches that are going bad, that are not producing fruit, you cut off because you don't want the nutrients going to that. But what you can do, especially with an olive tree, is you can take other branches from other olive trees and graft them, where you insert them into the tree, and they, over time, it becomes one with that tree. Now, what Paul is telling the Gentiles is, hey, don't be prideful that God has decided to bring Jesus to you too, because at first was to the Jews. So we as Christians have to respect our Jewish heritage. That's why the Old Testament should be important to us, to show us God started with the Jews, that he loved the Jews. He tried to save the world through the Jews, which he did through Jesus, but then the Jews rejected Jesus. And so then he's turned to the Gentiles. And he's hoping that as the Jews see that, wait, God is turning his back on us and going to the Gentiles, he's hoping they'll say, God, no, please come back to us. Excuse me. And he's hoping that this will make the Jews jealous, and that they'll say, no, we'll follow you too. And he knows that may happen. In fact, it does happen from time to time. And so God is saying, I love the Jews first, but now I love the Gentiles, and he's hoping the Jews will come back. And he's saying, but no, it doesn't matter because I have enough love for everyone. So, what does God's process with the Jews show you about the way God works? Again, I'm going to give you some time, or you can pause this between questions and talk about it. But I want you to discuss these questions, especially for those that are there at church in class or there in your families. So what does God's process with the Jews show you about the way God works? Next, has God ever worked a similar way in your life, such as you realized that you were missing when you were distant from God? Or excuse you realized what you were missing, not you were missing. You realized what you were missing when you were distant from God. Next question. Why do you suppose God designed his relation with us as based on grace instead of works? Next, does this setup make you want to take advantage of God's kindness? Why or why not? Another question for you. Most Jewish people have not accepted Jesus as Messiah, but you may know some who have. How does this passage give you more of an understanding of God's heart for this particular group of people, for the Jews? Finally, this group of questions here. Do you suppose others look at your relationship with God and want it for themselves? Why or why not? And also, who might God want to reach through you? Now, after you've gone through these questions, have a little activity I want you each to do. I want you to get a piece of paper, get a pen, and I want you to think of someone that you really admire. Then each of you make a list of all the things that you admire about that person. Finally, circle the qualities that you believe that person has that you could also develop. Now, I want you to ask these questions about those things. What holds you back from having or becoming the qualities you circled? Is it an attitude you need to change? A fear you need to get over? A sacrifice you need to make? Or a risk you need to take? After you've done this, after you've answered these questions, I want you to think about what you need to do in your life to improve your relationship with God. Guys, I hope you do have a great week. I want you to end in some time of prayer. We will be back again Wednesday night. Don't forget to join us for D&D at 7. This is actually one of our last couple of classes that I'll be doing with Derek and our Comanche Trail group. So join us for that. Next Sunday, we'll be back and we'll continue to finish the rest of the chapter 11. We've got a few more. We'll finish this out this quarter, and we'll go into something next quarter. God bless y'all. Be good. And I don't know what you need to do else, but see ya.